Hello, and welcome to Movie of the Year, the only podcast with the science and the screaming to determine what is the single greatest movie of any given year. We have taken a break from our incredible award-winning 1996 season to break down something that nobody has done in 2 months, the year 2024. And tonight is the beginning of our run of shows about all the mediums that matter. It's like no magazines, no opera. I'm just going to say that straight up.
What?
We're going to do...
What about Opera Magazine?
Oh, do you subscribe to Opera Weekly?
Well, you know,
I think it's
I'm a
pronounced
cultured
Oprah.
person. Oh, yeah, that's right. Okay.
That is a big magazine. Tonight we are going to do horror. We added this show a couple years ago. And with me, as always, for this incredible tradition, award-winning, what the fuck, is, of course, Mike.
I'm here with my guns apparently to fight horror.
We banned Mike from doing air horn noises, and this is what he's replaced it with. The quietest little gun in the
I
West.
normally say hello, happy to be here, and every time I'm introduced, I panic and go, gotta do something.
And, of course, we always, when we're talking about the freaky deaky, the spooky, and the scary, we have to bring on our old friend Taylor. Taylor, how are you tonight?
Boom. I also brought my guns.
Oh, his guns are bigger than mine.
It's okay.
And-
All guns matter.
The thin gun line. Taylor has already made louder gun sounds than Mike, so he is ahead. Oh, I forgot to give you guys your spooky names. Taylor barely even knew her. And
Yeah.
Mike.
Keep going.
Mike Octopus.
Yeah.
Mike
That's dope. I was going to say
Mike Octopus.
Grave Anyo.
Oh.
Oh, yeah. That's pretty good.
one.
I try not to reveal last names.
I'll take Mike Octopus.
Yeah.
It says Mike Cock right there.
Mike Octopus teacher.
What a wonderful documentary. Last year, we did this because we've done it many award-winning years, and the movie was so good, that one, and barely not even a horror movie. It was Godzilla -1, that we said, what if we brought onto this show, you know him from Movie of the Year, the name of the show that you're listening to right now, so not that big of a surprise. What if we brought in legendary Scaredy Cat, Greg. Greg, you are here tonight.
I'm here. I'm sitting in the Brave Boy chair. When I saw last year that Godzilla -1 won, I was like, you know what? I bet I could watch some of these horror movies. I bet they're not even that scary. I was wrong. It's weird. Godzilla, he's so big. He should be scary, but he's like too big to be scary. Remember when you found out what the bad guy was in Nope? And it's like, he's as big as a cloud. And you're like, that's actually too big to be afraid of.
Yeah.
The smaller these little bad guys are, for whatever reason, the scarier they are. That's why
Like Smurfs.
Chucky is the scariest of all the bad guys.
Let's throw it back to our horror connoisseurs. And as Greg writes down Smurfs and Chucky on his top 5 horror movie list of the year.
I saw scary movies, guys. I saw scary. When you hear some of these movies, you're going to be like, okay, that's a legit horror movie that Greg saw, and it was scary, and Greg risked PTSD to watch it. One of these movies legit gave me the spookies, the spooky scare.
The Coyote Shivers.
Yeah.
Mike and Taylor, do you guys, for a while now, especially since the pandemic, it feels like that horror has become the most reliable genre, not just with quality, but with box office. Let's look at the quality first. Do you guys look at this as a strong year? We'll start with you, Taylor.
I'm of two minds. I want to come in guns a-blazing and say, once again, I think for the 6th, 8th year in a row, horror's back, baby. I do think it was a really strong year, but also a year where, and I think this is maybe movies in general, I think movies have forgotten how to end a little bit. Like, there's so many movies that I'm watching, and I'm like, I'm having a great time all the way through this. And then, like, the last 10 minutes, I go, hey, man, why'd you do that? Why did that happen?
I mean, I'll be straight up. I love all 5 of the movies on my list. That's definitely the case with some of the ones that made my top 5.
Yeah.
And I think that's a horror problem for years. I remember loving The Last Exorcist from 10 years ago. And that is like a quiet-ish mockumentary. You don't know what's real, what's not. And at the end, there's a 20-foot flame monster. And you're like, wait, fuck you. So horror is always like, I don't know, man.
Is that the one where the flame monster creates a lot of ash in the city and it falls all over everybody and everyone's the same color? Yeah. Like, ends racism.
I feel like horror movies have the trope of the false ending, and that has become explored to like almost ridiculous depths. You know, that like the false ending falls in the middle of the movie. So like as the viewer, you're like, well, I mean, this is obviously not things wrapping up 80 minutes into what's going on, if only.
That'd be great.
And so I
Bring
think
back
they've leaned on it so heavily that now they're like a little lost in the sauce about how to bring things home.
And I think, yeah, like, I think it's a couple things. One, people are so much better at guessing endings. You don't want to give them the obvious thing.
Yeah,
so you do the fucking craziest thing. And the other thing, too, is that going to box office, like, you need these movies to have strong word of mouth. And the way to do that is for people to just say, some crazy shit happens. Good or bad, doesn't matter. It's just crazy shit. And you want to go see it before it's spoiled for you.
You know what I've discovered? Artists really hate it when they come up with an ending that they think is ambiguous, and then it gets clocked by the viewing public. So, like, the end of Sopranos, everyone was like, we know what happened. That guy shot him. And for the longest time, he was just like, no, that's not what happened. And then finally, he's like, yeah, I mean, I guess that is the end of the movie. But he was just upset that so many people had understood it. He thought it was going to be a little more obscure than that. We got the internet now, baby.
Yeah.
We collab on these things.
We don't even have to, like, have our own opinions. We just read the internet, and they give us our opinions.
Yeah, I'm just, dude, as soon as the final credits roll, I just type in name of movie, ending, explained. Then I'm like, take me away to Knowledge Town.
I like typing in as the credits are rolling and the usher's cleaning up the popcorn I threw on the ground out of fear. End of movie, what should I think?
Yeah. That's the way to go.
There are so many websites for you to go to. Like, there is a thriving industry of websites for you out there. So, Mike, the popcorn doesn't just like fly out of your carton as you get scared. You pick it up and throw it on the ground out of fear.
I chuck it. The more scared I am, the more millimeters into like the tarry substance that makes up movie theaters floors does the popcorn kernel go.
I feel like people think that that's what they're allowed to do in the movies, and the theaters take such pains to be like, please don't mess this place up. And then as soon as the movie's over, you just look around, it's a wasteland.
You can, in your seat, count 18 trash cans before you even get up. I'm infuriated every time somebody leaves their giant fucking 2-liter bottle worth of soda in a paper cup for some kid to clean up.
The funniest thing you can do is just yell, Kobe, and throw it right on the ground. Or into a nearby hill.
Because Kobe fell to the ground.
No, Ryan, that's awful.
Greg, terrible
Ryan.
joke.
Everyone's always talking about how tip culture is out of control. And I do think that if you're going to do that, you should tip the movie theater guy or clean up your own stuff. Like, even at a restaurant, if you're going to bust your own table, you don't have to leave a tip. Yeah.
I want to go the other way with tip culture, where I want to become like a mafioso from a movie from the 80s. And I want to just be like greasing everybody down with $20. Hey, you're doing a great job on the floor here. Oh, thanks, man.
The problem with that with you is that you will often put like $100 in my pocket, and then you'll stand there pointing to your pocket like, where's mine?
Out. If I hand somebody $20, I'm like, oh God, I better get that back. That's real money.
That's why you tie the string to it and pull it back. Let's get to the box office and the cultural imprint. Did you guys, Mike, we'll go to you. Did you feel the need to see some of these movies? Like, did you feel left out if you missed a big one? Like, I don't want to give anything away about.
You want to say years past ones, like.
No, we can say Long Legs or Substance. Like,
okay,
they came out this year.
Barbarian, yeah. There's definitely your Long Legs and your Substance and End of List that the culture talked about enough that you're like, well, I got to see this, especially if you're kind of into that shit.
I have to say, I've read the wikis for a lot of horror movies, and Barbarian. That is one of the most surprising wikis I think I've ever read. Be like, okay, he's going down in the basement. Let's see what's going to be here. I'm like, obviously, there's going to be some scary tunnel people, probably. Wow, Greg went on a real journey through that wiki.
And I know it's not what we're here to talk about, but casting the scariest Skarsgård. Yeah. So that's the thing. We're like, well, he's going to be the bad guy. I get this movie. Nope.
But
not in this one. And then also casting Justin Long to just sort of show up partway through.
I loved all the twists and turns of that movie, and I saw a trailer for Zach Cregger's next movie with, what's his name, Jack Quaid.
Jackie Quaid, companion.
And all the twists were great, but like if the needle drop in the cut to of Justin Long was spoiled for me, that would have been the most disappointing. That was one of the best movie moments of that year. Okay, so some people are saying that despite Taylor saying for the 8th year in a row that horror is back, that there is a dip, that it's not as big of a deal. I do like...
Isn't there like a wheat and a chaff situation? Like, I feel like the tops of the trees are as high into the sky as they've ever been, but that their overall quality of horror has not like been sustained through this year.
Those two movies
we've started spitting them out.
There's a lot of shaft.
But also, I mean, like, there was a ton of movies that made their money back and more, and like had their week, whether it's Heretic or Speak No Evil. Like, I think across the board there were some bummers, but I think when people say this stuff, they don't look at the overall world or the entire environment of pop culture. Everything is down,
Yeah.
and compared to everything else, horror is actually up.
Yeah, in a world where I can't watch Horizon: An American Saga Chapter 2 right now, I think we all need to take a step back and consider the greater context.
I take a knee out of respect for this country. I do think when it comes to horror, when it's great, it's great. And often when it's bad, it's fucking stupid and fun. And
yeah,
so horror gets a lot of passes where dramas and comedies do not. Those are the genres.
One of the movies we haven't mentioned is that was a big hit, and people did talk about for a week or more, was the third Terrifier. If that's surprising to you that there's a 3 at the end of that title, yes, there have been 2 other Terrifier movies that have come out.
That delightful clown. I'm sorry, he couldn't scare me. A clown? That's so silly. He's got a little hat. I love it.
Plus, I mean, you would just demand that you get that balloon animal you want. You're the scary one in that situation if you don't get your balloon animal. It's fun to watch these in theaters. I don't know why horror is so successful and comedies have completely dropped out of theaters entirely, because that used to be the most fun thing, but that's just how it is that people are afraid of spoilers and they want to do this with other people, and that's just not... Comedies don't have spoilers, I guess.
Is it still fun to watch horror movies in the theater? Because what I hear a lot is that people like laugh at the scariest parts, and I wonder if that's like a bummer.
I think it depends on the movie. I will say my theater experience for watching The Substance was electric. It was improved by watching it with an audience. I could see like a different movie, maybe that being a bummer, but I think like you live in a society with other people and you sort of just have to accept that, and that's a risk you have to take.
Well, we should say too, and of course we'd be remiss if we didn't say, hey everybody, hope you're okay after the fires. Taylor lives in Los Angeles. We live in the burbs.
That's true.
Much different movie-going crowds.
That's
like
true.
Those people know how to like see a movie.
Yeah.
Not the fucking punks at the mall that we go to the movies with.
That's fair.
When I go see movies, it's all I'm surrounded by teens who are looking at their phones,
playing with their decks.
Based on the way that I watch a lot of movies, I watch them with a lot of 65-year-old men who are fans of the movie Yellowstone. And so that's sort of the crowd that I'm rolling with.
Taylor watches all of his movies in a steam room.
Yeah.
Just
towels mandatory.
That big leaf.
I did go to a steam room. This is a quick aside. I did go to a steam room where they were playing all of the Fast and Furious movies out of order. And that was one of the better days of my life.
God damn, another Mad Lib story from Taylor. Longtime listeners of our Best of the Year shows know that we are all about the brackets. We love them. It forces things to fight against each other. But for the first time in decades, we are changing up what we do. The 4 of us have made up our own top 5 that we're going to talk about, reveal, and discuss. But while that's happening in real time, we will be creating an amalgamated top 5 that will become the official Pop Filter top 5 horror movies of the year, and will lead to announcing our number 1 movie. Will it be Godzilla -1? It cannot be. Will it be as dramatic as last year's horror show where Godzilla -1 was announced? I hope so. I don't know.
Can I guess? I bet it's Dark Claw.
The DC Marvel hard seltzer?
The amalgam hard seltzer.
What a delicious treat. So we're going to take a break. We are going to each chug 6 Dark Claw hard seltzers. And when we come back, the 5th best horror movie of the year. Taylor, you have the honor of cracking open this new movie of the year system by giving us your 5th favorite horror movie of the year.
I take this with great pride. My number 5 pick for horror movie of the year is Heretic. It is a movie with about some Mormon missionaries who are being held captive by Hugh Grant, who is sort of just like talking at them for a long time. And boy, oh boy, is that delightful. I had a blast with this movie. I think Hugh Grant is delivering like an all-timer speech. This is another one that we sort of talked about. I think the ending is a little it lets it down, but that it's one of the ones where it's like the first like 80 minutes of this had me so captivated that I don't know what ending I would have been satisfied with. But really, like both of the leads are great. But Hugh Grant is just killing it, and it's like sort of a single location sort of suspense.
A crazy
thriller.
location, but single nonetheless.
Yes, a crazy, insane location, but it is single location.
Is it scary?
It is scary-ish, but only because it's like for the first like hour, I would say it's tense more than anything. Like there's very few like there's not a lot of jump scares in this movie.
There's two that I can, anything that had to do, and I won't spoil, with the prophet.
Yeah.
Didn't love that. And then there's a spider in a pipe that fucking got me.
Yeah. That's the spider was the scariest thing in the whole fucking movie to me, and that's not to undersell the rest of it.
Little guy.
It's just, but yeah, most of it is just like, Hugh Grant's really going for it, and he's talking about Monopoly a lot.
Yes, lots of Monopoly. The game.
Yeah.
I loved Hugh Grant. He might be in my top 5 male performances of the year. I really didn't like this movie, but then coming out of it and hearing some people talk about it, I think that I just got the wrong thing was the horror aspect. Like, it wasn't this treatise on religion, but it was what women have to do to just hear the opinions of men. Just sit there and be fucking scared.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. It's very interesting and seems like one of those, like, they're not doing anything exceptionally crazy. It's just kind of a pretty straightforward, fun little flick. I had a blast with it.
Hugh Grant's like career heel turn has been, I just think, great for everybody.
Yeah, yes. Paddington.
Yeah.
2?
Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah, he's been. I'm glad that he needs to keep like paying child support.
Aren't we all? Also, he's lazier, which means he's taking parts that are more like his own personality.
Yeah,
he doesn't have to act as much if he is this
cranky old Englishman. It's the part I grew to play.
So as of right now, Heretic is the number 1 horror movie of the year with 1 point. Greg,
I'm glad to put it there.
Greg, what's your number 5?
My number 5 is Abigail. Abigail is the story of a group of people hired to kidnap a little girl. And when they get to the place where they're supposed to do it, it turns out the little girl is a vampire. And I don't know if she's literally the daughter of Dracula, but just imagine Dracula's daughter. And you watch her chase these people around the house and just have a lot of fun being very evil.
Wearing her ballet outfit, or as I call it, a Nosferatu.
Oh!
Thank you.
And we can't give points?
It's a lot of fun and a lot of gory fun. And what's nice about it is the whole beginning of the movie is like, well, these people think they're going to go kidnap a little girl. So obviously it's not such a big deal if you watch each one of these people get murdered horribly, right? And that is such a good way to start off a movie. Like, in this day and age, watching a little girl just rip 5 aggressive people to pieces.
Fantastic.
It feels so fucking good. It just really does. Like, you came to harm a little girl, and now you are going to have your face ripped off. So I hope you have fun.
I want to...
I was going to say, I really enjoyed watching this movie, but it was one of those things where, like, if you just took one more pass at this script, I think it would be tight and stronger.
It feels like they realized halfway through this movie was going to be on Peacock, and they're like, oh, well.
who gives a shit then? And this isn't the movie's fault necessarily, but it is a bummer that the trailer gives away the twist.
Know.
Yes. That never...
How dope would that have been if you had no idea?
We talk about this all the time, but I don't know how you get people into the seats in the movie theater to watch the movie without telling them what the hook is, which is that the little girl is a killer. But knowing that going into it, and the movie does things that that every movie does that has like a trailer that gives it all away. The movie doesn't act like you already know what's going to happen. And so, yeah, the whole first 20 minutes, you're like, this is a fucking shame, because I would be so surprised.
Yes. And it's elevated by like so many actors slumming it. So many actors had to buy that second house this year.
I believe that, and correct me if I'm wrong, but Giancarlo Esposito plays a well-dressed, like kind of calm, evil person.
Dude.
He's really stretching.
But the way that you sell $100 million worth of tickets to this movie is that you promote the fact that Dan Stevens is in it.
Yeah.
And I want to talk about this guy real quick.
I would love to see that man on the screen.
Post Downton Abbey, like he could have been, you know, a heartthrob or whatever. Like he could have done so many different things.
Matthew is like the most boring character on Downton Abbey.
Between this and The Guest and like probably other examples, the rest.
He's a fucked up little freak. I love him.
He is amazing at these like low budge, lo-fi genre picks. He knows exactly
And
the
even
tone
the
to
big
play.
budge. He showed up in the fucking Godzilla Kong movie from this year that was honestly terrible, but he's being a little weirdo in it.
He's doing the Jake Gyllenhaal thing without ever hitting the Jake Gyllenhaal Hollywood heights. Jake Gyllenhaal went like, I had it,
Yes.
I want to be a weird freak. Dan Stevens went, I don't even need the above the title bullshit.
On paper, like going back to what Mike said about needs another pass, on paper, Dan Stevens' character is, you know, trite and tropey and two-dimensional, and he plays it almost as a parody of that. Like he's so far gone into the like, I'm Dan Stevens in this movie. You know, it's just like this evil, even though he wears glasses, still evil. And
I didn't
he's
know
amazing.
that was possible.
All right, Abigail's on the list with 1 point. Michael, Mike Octopus, what is your number 5?
My number 5 is Don't Call Him Daddy. His name is Longlegs. So the rundown of one of the most talked about movies of this year is it's your kind of classic like FBI tale. It's definitely like a play on Silence of the Lambs. We have a very petite FBI agent, and she's going to do it for herself. The trick here is she's clairvoyant, and the trick here is the devil is real and uses dolls and magical silver balls that emanate weird energy, but some reason still needs to hoodwink said FBI agent's mom from when she was a kid to help deliver the dolls. Look, this movie's a fucking mess, but
There's a lot going
unsettling.
on.
It is very unsettling, and the flashbacks going into like old time like 70s home video aperture, that won me over, and then just sprinkling Daddy Longlegs through the movie, Nicolas Cage at his like freakiest. It's a fucking stupid movie, but there was enough there that I really enjoyed it.
One thing I appreciate about horror movies is they'll give you like a completely straight setup, and then they'll be like, but also there's telekinesis.
What's crazy is that like her being psychic is the straightforward setup, and then the twist is that the devil is real. Like it's so. I think honestly, my problem with this movie, it just barely missed making my list. My only problem is that it's 3 or 4 different movies, all of which I want to see the entire. Like, give me the entire. She's just an FBI agent, but also she's psychic. Make that the whole movie. I would watch that.
One of my
third in the series about this character.
Yes.
One of my favorite critics, Adam Naiman, nailed how, because I was unsure. I was like, I watched it, liked some of it, have some questions, and he nailed it in like a 1-sentence review, which was like over-explained what needed no explanation and didn't explain shit about everything that needed explanation.
Let's go back to this silver magic ball that shows up in all these dolls that look like the little girls for a second. What
Unexplained entirely.
The pervert forensic guy who's like obsessed and getting off on the ball emanating energy even though it's empty. Let's deal with that guy for a while longer.
Yeah. I think my this is one that for me ended a little poorly, and part of my ending poorly was they're like the devil's real, and I just sort of went, what do you want me to do about that? What are any of us to do about this?
and too neat of a package where I'll buy that Lee was saved as she was supposed to be one of the murdered girls 20 years ago, but she forgot it. but that the current little girl almost dying is now her partner's daughter. That's too neat. That is too much too neat.
It is too neat. But I can't wait in 20 years for Long Legs to Longer Legs when that girl is also now a psychic FBI agent, and we finally get that full movie. And then we'll also get like the Zodiac Killer movie. There's what a fun time that movie was.
We say on our normal podcast, Movie of the Year, that every movie in our eyes moves up in quality once we talk about it. This is the only movie that the more we talk about it, the less I like it.
It's funny you mentioned Zodiac, Taylor, because I feel like he inspired so many of these movies, and the true story of that is the cops were just too dumb to figure out what that guy was talking about.
Well,
he was like, we're going to have a game of cat and mouse, and they're like, this thing you sent us, you can't read it. And he's like, no, it's code. And they're like, yeah, well, it's code.
That's cool. I don't fucking know. What do you want? What do you want me to do with this?
All right, that's Long Legs. It is tied for first place right now. My number 5 movie of the year is called Late Night with the Devil. This is a movie that stars David Dastmalchian as a 1970s talk show host who is worried about his ratings, and always trying to like do the edgiest thing possible. One of those TV guys that they're long gone. That's back in the 70s. That's not a thing anymore. And so he invites who he thinks may or may not be a real exorcist or a real girl with a demon problem, and it turns out that she is right. He is right. The majority of the movie.
The twist of this movie is the devil is real.
Which I knew because I watched Long Legs before this movie. The gimmick or the premise is that it is almost completely a like shot in the talk show form, like we're watching an episode of the talk show. And this it sort of made me realize this through line that I have with at least my list. I don't know about your guys's, but like there is this sense of nostalgia in these movies. And I know that with horror movies, that's obvious because sequels and prequels and reheats and whatever, but it's not just that. It's we're going to take something from the past and inject something in it. And that is my entire list up and down. Like we're now at this point where like we're of the age, we're so old that our childhood is now ancient times to be played with, and we're a little bit younger than this era, but not by that much. And the conceit was almost perfectly nailed in this movie.
Shout out to the little girl who is supposed to be possessed. Her uncanny way of staring into the camera, with just like this completely fixed. There's a lot of like very horrible imagery in this movie, but I think she manages to make the scariest thing just her staring into like whatever camera's on her. She just slowly turns to that camera and stares into it. And for a while, this movie is kind of messing with. What is going on here with this girl? Is she just disturbed? Is it multiple personalities? Are they taking advantage of her?
They are.
But all these things in some form are true. But she is the real deal, as the movie will reveal. And even that stuff that happens after that, which is so scary to think about, is not quite as like uncomfortable as her just weird fixed gaze into the camera a lot of times.
But I think part of what makes that scary is one, because that's just going to creep you out no matter what. And it's not like, well, I don't believe in the devil, so that can't scare me. But like, it has to do with the casting and the way all these characters none of them are overly charismatic. You can really see that this would be like the number 8 late night show competing with
in
Johnny
New York
Carson.
or whatever.
Yeah.
that all of them feel like real characters, real lived in. And so that's why her just staring at you is so creepy, because I don't want anybody to make eye contact with me.
In that way, it reminded me of Larry Sanders in that, like, it's a show about a talk show, but he was never number 1 or even close to number 2, and so they were just like on that edge doing things that normal or that the number 1 show would never do in order to pass it. But the reason they're not the number 1 show is because they do this bullshit, right? Like that all works in together.
Did you at all find yourself wishing that they had found some way just to make it the talk show? Yeah,
we should talk about the ending, because even if we don't spoil, it does break the format. And I feel like I had less of a problem with this than most people. Some people said this was a 3.5-star movie that fell to a 2-star movie.
Oh, really?
They're wrong. It broke the format. I liked how it did it throughout the movie of like, well, there's behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Somebody was having like a giant 70s style camera filming everything. So during the
and it's like black and white or something, right? It has like a very different feel to it.
I bought in that, and I was like, okay, so you're going to see like the real version of them when they're off camera, and I did like that. But at a certain point, like one of my favorite horror movies, and it is very flawed, is Leslie Vernon Behind the Mask, and so much of it is a mockumentary. But then the last is like, now we're just like a normal 2000s horror movie because we didn't know how to do this anymore. That is far more of a failure than this movie. The length of it, and also like it's still, now we're just in the guy's head, and it was like, this was found footage released, like Late Night with the Devil was. And so at a certain point, if you're going to show a thing when literally nobody else is around, I don't know. I gave it. So much goodwill was built up for me that I didn't care that much.
Yeah, I think that, and some people I think, though, had so much goodwill that they were so pissed that it was shot, like the balloon was popped. I do want to ask you guys, before we get out of here, about David Dastmalchian. Did we watch a star being born, or is he just a little too weird, like, you know, off center, that like he is just going to be that guy and that's his career?
I think this is going to be the most normal role he ever plays.
Yes.
Yeah, I love yet another weird little freak who I love to see on my television screen. He's so good. He's a weird little guy. I hope he never plays a normal role again in his life.
On his podcast, his interview podcast, him and his guests lay in different coffins next to each other and talk to each other like that. So that's this kind of guy. But this is his peak, not just in fame, but like in performance, because of how perfectly he is at this role.
Yeah, he has to love him. We all love him. He's very talented, but he has to be like, I am 30 feet from being the real star, because he was Polka Dot Man. Like if you don't know who we're talking about, you see this guy's face, you're like, oh,
you've seen him so many times. Yeah, and I think honestly, you just have to be like, that's what I am to movies.
Yes.
And I'm glad to be in the movies.
I feel like he's our generation's that guy, and by that guy I mean like he was the head of Utz on Mad Men. And he was the guy who gets scared by the person behind the dumpster in Mulholland Drive.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Do you know who I'm talking about? He was on Lost for a little bit.
Not Jimmy Pardo, but I will always confuse them because they're both tiny motor mouth.
Movie of the year, Mulholland Drive.
Movie of the year, Mulholland Drive. I almost said Mulholland Falls. That's why I passed. But that's the other not
one. You have to watch out. It's not that one.
One last thing is the effects, which were clearly, I mean, like, computers were used, but the way this third act and all of the exorcisms that happen deal with their effects, I thought was so thrilling, because it felt like it looked like it would in the 70s.
Yeah.
So, like, of course they use computers, but maybe a little more practical than any other movie would. And it just added this, like, I don't know, sort of gravitas to the whole thing.
And I would say this has two different things that I don't want to spoil, but were the scariest single images of any of the movies I saw. There was like moments in this where you're like, wow, I really just saw that. I wish I hadn't.
I was going to say, hopefully it's not that, but you know what I love? Talk about movies that explain or don't explain things. It is a Halloween taped episode, so the crowd is dressed up.
Yeah.
But there's one person who is not like in a dime store 70s era Halloween costume. They are a unmoving skeleton man, and he was fucking terrifying, and the movie never explains whether or not is he part of any of it, or is he just a creep in the audience.
I think in Longlegs they said that was the devil. That guy.
The devil.
Yeah. In my head, he's Donnie Darko. Is that true?
He's Donnie Darko.
All right, so we have, as of course we do, a four-way tie for first: Heretic, Abigail, Longlegs, and Late Night with the Devil. Welcome to the list. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, Taylor's fourth favorite movie. All right, Tay-Tay, what is your number 4?
At number 4, I have Nosferatu. It's you know probably a little bit what this is if you've watched SpongeBob as a child. He's a little creepy little vampire guy, and really this version is entirely a story about like, what if you were so horny that you summoned an apocalypse level plague onto your entire town, and which of us cannot relate to that? You know?
Yeah, dude.
At the end of the day, Eggers, he really knocked it out of the park with that one. And they gave the vampire a mustache, which is really fun.
The fact that Mike does not currently have Count Orlok's mustache right now is astonishing to me.
I thought that takes longer to get there. Give me a few months.
Mike, what did you think of this movie?
One of the complaints I've heard is that it's silly, but vampires, they're old, silly, sassy bitches. And he is just a silly, sassy bitch in a newer way. And I like that Eggers was like, I'm going to go realistic period piece with this, which means the way his stupid fucking big mustache.
Yes.
He does look like he would ride a penny farthing in Williamsburg, Brooklyn, circa 2007.
When he says, "Now we are neighbors," I like one of the biggest laughs of the year.
There's no way. All the times you laughed, I'm convinced. All the times I laughed, Eggers knew what he was fucking doing. And then because after I saw this movie the next night, I went and rewatched Bram Stoker's Dracula from the 90s. Also a hilariously silly movie.
Yeah.
They're all silly bitches.
They're vampires.
and Eggers still brought like it looks gorgeous. I want to go to that castle in Romania.
Absolutely. It looks gorgeous. It's like it's really lit really well. They use
I don't know if they went
rats.
I don't know if they went full Barry Lyndon, but I do think that he made an attempt to like have as much natural light or candlelight in it without any, Hollywood big lights.
For a movie that is very dark, but not in the way that we complain all movies are these days. We can't fucking see anything and it's muddy.
I could tell what was happening the whole time.
Beautiful. Yes.
Yeah. It's that, and Lily Rose Depp really. You could tell that she was a little worried people were going to sort of just consider her Johnny Depp's daughter. And she left it all on the field with this one. She just fucking was, it's all her. There's so little CGI with the shit she's doing. And she's like, there's so many fluids coming out of her. Like she's spitting and crying and just being a real mess.
I'm so glad you brought her up. I'm so glad you brought her up, Taylor, because I don't know if I've ever seen her on anything, and I kind of thought after The Idol, Greg's favorite show of all time, that her career was over. And she is the best part of this movie. I thought she was absolutely incredible. And for some reason, that makes me, I don't want to say it because of who her dad is, but that's not fair to her.
Yeah.
No. There's good Nepo babies out there.
One thing the show The Idol taught me is that she's brave as hell.
Yes. Let's get to...
Was it scary? Sorry, I'm going to ask this about the ones I didn't see. Was it?
It's a gothic horror, right? So it's moody and vibey. It's not scary.
Yeah.
If you know about vampires, you're probably pretty good.
But
if you've never heard of vampires, this is going to scare the pants.
What are they doing?
I will say this. As far as I knew, vampires loved necks because that's part of their whole thing.
Yeah.
When you go straight for the heart to dine, that's fucking so much more messed up. And he is an animal.
Do you know what's scarier than like the two little marks that we get where sometimes they just rip out the jugular and it's like a bloody gory mess? Is he has like rat teeth. The way the teeth marks are placed, it's fucking disgusting.
And yet another appearance by our boy Bill Skarsgård. Once again, like I watched so many movies this year where he is shirtless and covered in blood and kind of weirdly hot. I don't understand how he's doing it, but he's just crushing it.
There was a choice made by Eggers and Skarsgård, and just the decision to cast Skarsgård, who at some point should seek therapy because every phone call or email he gets is, "Hey man, you want to play a fucking ugly, disgusting freak?"
We got this weird killer psycho
to do something that I don't think I've ever
fucked up, bad-looking monster.
I don't think I've ever seen before that I can think of in a vampire movie. And with Coppola's, he starts off the movie as that fucking old ass bunhead.
Yeah.
But after that, he becomes like the dashing guy in the John Lennon glasses when he goes to England. Our vampires are typically like the hotness is part of it. And this guy is such a fucking mustachioed loser, just a pathetic old decrepit piece of shit the entire time.
Yeah, it's funny. When they made the original, they were like, we want everything from Dracula, except it doesn't make sense that Dracula is like so daddy. So we need like a weird little rat man, and that's been an enduring change.
And it worked. Orlok versus Dracula. Dracula is your traditional vampire that Ryan just explained. It's sexy. Orlok is like a lich more than anything. And so, because they're like, oh, other vampires exist, but they're not that scary. It's because this guy has that pact with the devil. So many devil movies this year. What's going on 2024?
It's the horror episode. If this is the case in the album episode, I'm going to have more questions.
Somehow the devil returned.
There's a lot of people I talk to who this movie left cold, and the more that I think about it,
exsanguinated, maybe.
Yeah, exactly. I think that does make sense. I think that if you look at Eggers' other movies, the whole idea that Dracula, or the vampire sort of entices the lady, but also the audience is just not something he wanted to do.
No.
And so there's not that sexiness to him, and there's not the sort of like almost telenovela twist that so many of these Dracula movies have. Like, he's playing this as straight as one can when there's a 6'2" mustachioed vampire in the room.
And so many people are, and it makes sense of like Aaron Taylor Craven.
Aaron Taylor Craven.
He is in it, and he is a quote unquote good guy, but he's also an 1800s aristocrat, so he's a piece of fucking shit, even though he's right most of the time. Like, so when he's being like, Lily Rose Depp, you kind of suck, and you're like, oh, she's a protagonist, fuck you. He's right, sort of, but like everything, it makes you just like raise your shoulders and your hackles the whole time, not because it's scary, just you're like, oh, everybody's uncomfortable to watch.
Yeah, it's if I have a house guest and the house guest is, I know for a fact having this house guest makes my wife get eaten by rats. Get her out of there. She doesn't belong in the home. I'm sorry.
Doesn't make you a bad guy.
See,
I loved seeing Willem Dafoe just have a fun time. That's all I want for him. It
I'm
seems
a
like
little
he's
worried.
Edgar's muse.
And that is great. I love that. But I'm a little worried that he's becoming the opposite, but the same of Giancarlo Esposito.
Yes.
Of like a little bit typecast. Is like, oh, we need a short little fucking freaky deek in here.
This role, I mean, it's probably before that, but this to me was his Van Helsing. I know his name's different. Is 1800s version of his FBI agent in Boondock Saints, where he's just like, I'm gonna do my thing, and you have to respect me because I'm the best, even though nobody wants to talk to me because look at how I am in the world.
With a little bit of Willem Dafoe from Poor Things sprinkled in, I think.
Yes,
and then also, of course, Willem Dafoe from Beetlejuice, the only
Dafoe,
good part
Florida
of that
Project.
movie. Let's move on to Greg's number 4. Greg, what do we got?
My number 4 is Alien Romulus. My fear of horror movies does not extend to the Alien universe because of my sick sort of like fascination with them. I love the world of this. I love the way it like looks at corporations and workers, and the true terror in all of these movies is capitalism, because these big companies will just absolutely leave you to die or force you to die, send you somewhere, particularly to be like infested with aliens. And I like this one. I thought it was the scariest of all the Alien movies that there are.
Since Alien.
Wow.
Alien to me is not a super scary movie because, among other things, in Alien the bad guy dies because it falls asleep, and then she just sort of kicks it out into space while it's sleeping. And I've always thought that was a weird choice based on the fact that the guy couldn't really move in the costume, and so they're like, well, what are we gonna do? But like, for instance, the scariest part of Alien to me is the face huggers. And this movie went, you know what? We're going to need more of these guys, and they're going to be springy little fellas. Just springing off the walls.
There's so many of those fucking guys. It's so fucked up.
And they want to get in your face so bad.
The only thing this movie's missing is like a little bit of Gremlins 2, the new batch, where they were all the facehuggers were injected with different potions. Like this one's a bat, this one's a tree.
But
there's the sexy facehugger.
I feel like there is that element where you like get a different combination of alien to human than you've ever quite had before. There's a circumstance that's like been hinted at throughout the series that is made explicit at the end of this movie, and like a lot of that stuff scared the absolute shit out of me.
Also, finding out that thing that you're talking about, Greg, was practical effects, and there's a real guy in there who kind of looks like that, was almost more terrifying than the actual movie.
Move over, Bill Skarsgård. We got a new weird freak for Hollywood.
It's almost like they sat down and they're like, well, what are all the horrifying implications, and what are all the horrifying combinations of things that we haven't quite done yet?
Yeah. Yes.
And this movie, again, it's a horror movie, so it has a false ending, but the false ending is like an hour into the movie, and you're like, I know that this is not. I don't think that the extra hour of this movie is you guys just very slowly wrapping things up. But it breaks so bad. It gets so much worse than you think it's going to get. You're like, obviously, there's still some bad stuff that's going to happen. The amount of bad stuff that is yet to happen of like every 5-minute period of this movie is very intense.
Can we, I don't know how spoiler we're going to get, but we've heard tale on the internet, because if you don't read Dune books, that there is some sort of worm man coming.
Yeah.
In Dune,
This we get xenomorph human baby. That is like the fourth ending of this movie.
Yes.
But it's still, I thought it was
keeper.
effective and very scary.
Very, 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 very scary. Like, it's executed in a scary way, but also the implications of it are just so horrifying.
Right. So does the jump scare you, and the lingering, now you're thinking about it after the movie's done, which is what a good horror movie does.
I have to say,
you can do both. You just can't do only the jump scare.
When I tell people I don't like horror movies, they think what I'm saying is I don't like jump scares.
You don't like to go,
I don't love jump scares, but that's not what keeps me away from horror movies. This movie has like a classic jump scare that's, I think, the worst of almost any movie ever. That, to me, is not as scary as the questions raised by the things that happen at the end of the movie, or just looking at the creatures, like looking at them, watching them exist in the environment. That's
I've seen this now, and it's in my brain.
Yeah,
and,
exactly.
Like I can't not have seen this now.
Yeah,
thanks, H.R. Giger.
The jump scare, if we're talking about the same one, is like not just the thoughtfulness, but also the graphics level of like Resident Evil on the PlayStation. Resident
I agree
Evil
with
1.
that. Yeah,
it's but I still fucking
it looks like
my
shit,
popcorn
but it's
right
the
on the
scariest
ground.
fucking thing.
Yeah.
I want to give us a shout out to I think the clear best human performance, non-alien performance, we'll say that, which was David Johnson from our new favorite show. He played the robot android guy.
The brother.
Yeah, and he is from Industry.
Oh yeah, from Industry. Yeah, he's really good in this. As like
He has the single worst line in the movie, where he takes a
an
gun. And he's like,
alien Romulus. That one.
but no, I thought he was good. And Kaylee Spaney, who is about to blow up.
yeah.
Is that the main actress?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And well, she was in Civil War this year, and then last year she played Priscilla.
She's in it
so
all.
good for her. That is Alien Romulus. Mikey, what's your number 4?
Late Night with the Devil.
Oh boy.
Oh boy.
And my number 4 is Nosferatu. So I'm gonna adjust the list while Taylor tells us about his number 3.
All right, my number 3 is First Omen. This is you've heard of Omen, right? With the little kid and he's the devil. Spoiler alert, guys! The devil is real in this one. This is sort of a prequel about how the little devil himself came to be.
So fucking.
It is fucking, but it is fucking with an ancient dog creature. Yeah, and they
Greg,
get away
don't be
with
racist.
This is like
Some sort of
it's so
gozer?
interesting. It's so interesting with this one because it is shot so like because it's set in like the 70s and it's shot as if it were in the 70s. We're in Italy. There's just a bunch of nuns hanging out in Italy, and it's like oh buongiorno, or whatever they do, and it looks great. But then every now and then they'll show you the most fucked up thing that has ever been put to screen. Like I didn't think that we were allowed to put this in movies. Like I'll say it. Spoiler alert, if you're worried about scares, you see a hand come out of a vagina in this thing.
And you're supposed to go into vaginas.
What
then there's
sized hand?
Like a creepy like clawed like a full hand, and then there's also very sneakily a little close up shot of like a standing dogman creature's penis. It gives you some real fucked up shit. But I had a great time looking at it.
I thought this movie, and I want to make sure we say your name, Akasha Stevenson. That is my new. I have season tickets for whatever she makes. I am in. I could like she out Eggers in this movie. I could not believe the tone and the mood that she was constantly setting while then delivering again. Like Taylor said, I'm sure we're gonna talk about another movie that shows us a lot of gross shit. But what I saw in this movie, I don't remember the last time I did the whole, where's my phone? I need to look at something else right now. It was absolutely horrifying.
That's a major component of all these movies for me.
Is-
Like looking at my phone a little bit, or just looking away from the screen.
Just a touch.
There's a movie on this list that I like watched maybe 1 minute of the final 25 minutes of.
I think that, and Taylor, I don't know if you can back me up on this, but I think that, are you an Omen guy?
Not really. Like, I've seen like the original. I didn't watch like the remake in the 2000s or whatever, but like I know enough.
She is so talented, and this script is so incredible on its own that if this is what it takes for somebody like this to get the budget, they have to like attach it to an earlier franchise,
yes.
and we just have to sit there and deal with like, oh, the connection in the final like 5 minutes. Here we go. I'll take it. I just ignored it.
Yes, that is the worst part of the movie because it's so obvious. The studio was like, now you have to have a guy show up like Samuel L. Jackson and be like, and now the Omen is coming. And it's like, all right, fine. Because that is so like, and I think she did this intentionally. The vibe of that scene is so far removed from everything else in the movie. And like, she's like, fuck you. We're not in the same place. We're not in the same climate. This isn't part of my movie. Someone else made me do this. I'm like, hey, we get it. I understand. You can do whatever you want with the rest of it. I'll ignore this part.
It's like it's like going from. It's not like it is. I'm going to describe this movie instead of making an analogy. It's like you're watching this dark, incredible, creepy, religious, like old school, whether it was in Rome or wherever it was, it feels terrible. And then all of a sudden, for one scene, you're watching a Hallmark Christmas movie, and she's just like, fuck all y'all.
She has to go back to her hometown.
She's going to fall in love.
There's a carpenter there. She really
That moment was so insane. Because like before, the moment that I knew I was really into the movie was there's just a shot of a nun smoking a cigarette, jumping on a trampoline very early in the movie. And I was like, you know what? The Italians have got it figured out. Show me this the rest of the time. You don't have to have a plot. This is fun to me.
And the other thing too is like the original one that I feel like is popular and nobody knows why, right? Like everybody's seen it, but nobody likes it. That was directed by Richard Donner. And this is another thing that I want people to really learn from is you're going to make a movie in this franchise started by Richard Donner. You do not have to direct like Richard Donner, put your stamp on it. This is the guy, Richard Donner is the guy who made The Goonies, right?
Yeah.
This is not a fucking Richard Donner movie. This is just, it is so clearly an Arkasha Stevenson movie, even though I've seen one of her movies. And again, I cannot wait for more.
Yeah, I'm already sat down in the theater for her.
Season tickets. We might talk about that movie later. Greg, I saw that it's your turn next. What's your number 3?
You just called Greg the devil.
My number 3 is Late Night with the Devil.
All right. So let's give that movie some points. And that Late Night with the Devil moves into first place. Nosferatu is second.
Uh-oh.
Mike, what do you got?
For my number 3?
Your number 3.
It's Nosferatu.
Oh, shit.
Nosferatu 3, maybe.
Of course.
And now that's
I see what that is.
in the lead. And my number 3 is I Saw the TV Glow.
Yay.
Nobody watched it?
Oh, sorry.
I watched it.
Burn. That's a burn.
Okay. I am excited to get to Taylor, but first I'm going to talk to Greg.
Okay.
I Saw the TV Glow is about two sort of loner kids who get hooked on a TV show that only Mike and my wife liked in like the early 2000s. It's called The Pink Opaque, and it is just their show. It's aspects of Buffy, aspects of The Adventures of Pete and Pete, and they get so hooked on it that...
It's so weird, though, because what really is what type of show it really is, I feel like is very much up for grabs by the end of the movie.
Yeah.
Like whether it's a skit show or whether or not it is like a Pete and Pete.
I think that I also think that there's supernatural elements in that it's like the show Supernatural in that it's two friends who solve crimes or whatever. But
I'm in.
But see, whenever they talk about it, that's what it sounds like. But then at the end of the movie, she watches an episode of it, and it's like, it's not even that you can't make the thing that she watches be like anything they've said about.
Well, at that point, reality is all fucked up, and it's because of the devil.
Yeah. The moon devil.
She decides
that fucking moon guy is so fucked up. It again, if we're talking about imagery, I had a hard time with that one.
Talk about Jimmy Carter dying, and here we are talking about malaise.
Oh,
right, everybody.
The moon guy you're talking about, Mark Spector, correct?
Yeah. Or Jake Lockley or Stephen Grant.
So she disappears, and we find out that it's because that she found out that the TV show was reality and their reality was fake. It's a hard movie to explain. I don't know how much even more I want to go into.
Yeah, like the first half of the movie you think is progressing like a normal movie, and then the reality of the movie starts to break down. And at first you're like, oh no, wait, this person is having a mental breakdown. But then it infects more and more of the movie until the movie just like, I don't know. It kind of reminds me of I'm thinking of ending things. Yeah, like there is something going on. There's like three things going on over the course of the movie, and they're like kind of three plots that sort of play out over the same set of events.
And we have so much fun on these roller coaster movies because we can see the track in front of us. But with stuff like Charlie Kaufman or with a movie like this, you don't see the track, and it's really hard. I mean, I'm going to be honest. Like, I think this movie would have cracked my top 10 horror movies after the first time I watched it, but I had to go back and watch it for a second time, and it just everything became so much more clear, but still in an ambiguous way.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Every horror movie, I think, sort of on a foundational level, is about the experience of madness. And that is like the thing that we are really afraid of in all of these. And this movie interacts with that directly. Like, first it seems like a character is going mad, then it seems like two characters are going mad, then it seems like kind of reality begins to go mad. And I don't think that the movie offers answers as to what is happening.
Yeah.
I mean, I think you could like piece together a lot of it or something, but I think that there are questions that the movie asks about like the nature of reality that are the real like sort of star of it.
It's also important. Like, a lot of people talked about how Alien Romulus was the Force Awakens for Alien.
Yeah.
And I didn't really notice it that much. I thought that they did a good job of separating themselves enough. I didn't super understand who the director of this film was the first time I watched it. And then listening to her talk about herself, even for like 5 minutes, I missed a lot. And I think that second time, she's trans, and the elements of the movie that are about sticking in your reality versus or what everybody tells you is the reality versus the reality that you belong in. I mean, that opens the entire movie up.
It's very interesting how obviously trans the story is without anybody being like explicitly trans in the movie or them ever talking really directly about it. It's just like it is what the reality of the movie is made up of is like all these signifiers of transdom, and then there's like allusions to it, but it's so weird how nobody ever just like says in the text of the movie.
I was shocked when I walked out of the theater and talking to the people that I watched it with, when I was like, yeah, it was trans allegory, and everyone I was with was like, what do you mean? And I was like, it was the trans pride flag was the first thing that we saw.
Did you see the parachute?
Every time he was upset, he was wearing a blue shirt, and when they were like feeling good, they were wearing something pink. Like, it's very like
they keep cutting back to him here, wearing a pink dress and obviously being like, you are Isabel, but nobody ever goes like, time out, viewer.
Yes,
what we're talking about here.
It's as close to hitting you over the head without like actually doing it, which is my one problem with the movie in a separate way. Is like when I was vibing with the movie, I was like, this is fucking dope. This is my favorite movie. Near like the last 20 to 30 minutes, there was occasionally a scene where they would be like, hey, we've been doing a really good job sort of like bringing you in. We're going to sit down and dump a lot of exposition for a long time, and we're going to grind this thing to a halt. And I was like, I wish you had taken that out of the movie because I was having a good time, and now I'm not anymore. And then I would have a good time again.
And it's so hard. Like, it probably wasn't exec notes, right? Like, oh, you have to explain this more. I can't imagine that with a movie like this, having studio exec notes come in and explain more. Maybe it was just, I want to broaden the audience. But like, I mean, I just sat here and said I didn't get the trans allegory the first time. It wasn't until the second time. And then Taylor just said, you're a fucking idiot piece of shit if you did not understand that right away.
I apologize for my strong words, but but it doesn't say it.
Have I ever done that to you, Taylor? I've never done that to you on a podcast.
But the movie, I think what the movie's trying to do, though, is it's trying to give you the whole experience of trans identity without letting you know, unless you're aware of some of the signifiers, without letting you know that's happening, so that once the movie is over, you've like sort of accepted all of that, and then later you find out it's about trans identity. And
I think it works on multiple levels.
It's gotten through your guard a little bit.
Yeah.
Also, I mean, like, Taylor, nice job. I'm proud of you for breaking through this movie. That was not sarcastic. I don't know how to not be not sarcastic. But I do think that there is this thing with artists where they sort of say, I'm going to make this for the people who will get the most out of it. And if you don't, then you don't, Like, I don't, that's how so much stuff has been written and created forever. It's just like, if it's not for you, then it's not for you. It kind of is awesome for the artist, like, ha ha ha, you're just included. I love this movie. One more thing before we go. There's an actor in this movie that I have always found lacking in talent. Even by watching Detective Pokemon.
Winston Smith?
I was like, is this guy good? Here, he's doing a very stylized performance. He has a voice. Is it Justice?
Yeah.
Justice Smith?
Yeah,
what did you think of this guy? What did you think of his performance? And did it take you a little bit of time to buy in?
I have not liked him previously, but I agree with what you said, which is that I don't think it took me time to buy in. I have not liked him previously. I liked him a lot in this.
Yes, I agree. And I don't know if that's because this is the role that he's meant to play, or if he just was able to do something with this that like he wasn't able to in other things that I've seen him in. But I liked him a lot in this. I don't know that I'm going to, based on this, I'm going to jump out day one for the next Justice Smith picture. I'm going to I'm hesitant on him still.
But having, thought about this movie a lot, I'm going to say props to Jane Schoenbrunn for watching Detective Pikachu and being like, that's my guy.
I got him.
Yeah. I know who it is.
Locked
and
in.
it's Ryan
Bring
Reynolds
me
as
Squirtle.
Pikachu.
Or, barring that, bring me the human from the Pokemon movie.
We have to take a break. When we come back, I'm going to give you the updated top 5 and Taylor's number 2 horror movie of the year. We are back and we have a top 5 so far. It could change. I would be shocked if it doesn't change. That would be.
It should change.
That would be nuts, guys.
For the listeners.
Your number 5 horror movie of the year so far is Alien Romulus. Number 5. Your number 4 is I Saw the TV Glow. Your number 3 is The First Omen. Your number 2 is Late Night with the Devil. And your number 1 horror movie so far, but Taylor's going to fucking disrupt all this right now, is Nosferatu. Taylor's got a pretty good Nosferatu. Does mine sound too much like he's got that thing that he has to put at his neck?
The electric
thing?
Nosferatu.
What you need to do is try to sound like Scary Nandor from What We Do in the Shadows, because that's
a different vampire.
The whole movie, it just felt like Skarsgård was doing a Nandor impression, and I was giggling to myself, and I loved it. We are neighbors.
Creepy paper.
Oh man, I would watch a Nosferatu. Like, I would watch multiple Nosferatus that just feature the vampires from that show. Each has like the centerpiece of a Nosferatu.
Yes.
Including the puppet. I don't like the puppet.
I fucking love the puppet. I love that she's just stayed around and she's her own like person now. Says all the same things Nadja does, but
smaller,
more doll-like.
Taylor, what's your number 2?
My number 2 is a movie we've already talked about a little bit on this show. It's The Substance. Have you ever wanted to be younger, hotter, fitter? Why not?
No,
The Substance.
I'm a man.
Couldn't imagine.
Yeah, that's fair. Why not The Substance? It's a special little liquid. You put it in yourself in the most horrifying way imaginable. And then
Ignore the pus.
Yeah, ignore the pus. And then a new version of you crawls out of you, out of the back of you like a little cocoon. And then you have to respect the balance, share time like week by week with the young, cool version of you and the old, decrepit version of you. Hey, what could go wrong? Everything. It's what a fun time at the movies this was.
Did you see this in theaters?
Yes, I did. I watched it in theaters. Wow. I watched it with the right crowd too. It was a packed theater, and at first people were like, well, I don't know. It's like a kind of a spooky movie, right? At a certain point, people were laughing so hard. Like I distinctly heard one woman, like a row behind me, laughing so hard that she was clearly crying. And like fully a minute after like a joke had passed, she like repeated it, and we all laughed again. It was
that's the best.
Great. What a good time.
The movie is like obsessed with Margaret Qualley's butt throughout the entire film. And
I love how Greg calls himself the movie.
And only the movie.
And then there's a part where she has broken the very simple rules, and suddenly her butt pops out in a weird way, and then she like straightens up, and she's like, nothing. And they're like, something weird happened there. And then the scene gets so excruciating as they're like, well, I guess we could just like watch it back in slow motion to see what happened on the big screen here.
Should we all go through and talk about who would pop out of us if we were on the substance? Because I do think that if I took it, what would pop out is that little kid who's like, and apparently we went on the ride of the roller coaster, and apparently I haven't been on roller coasters.
I do think mine would be the I like turtles guy.
Okay. So what memeified child comes out of Greg and Mike?
I'm guessing for me, we're
Porn?
doing 1996 right now on the regular show, and Jack Black is in a few of those movies, and so I think baby Jack Black would pop out of me. 20-year-old
Jack Black.
Yeah.
Sticking with the meme rules, mine is the kid on the computer who gives the thumbs up
Yes.
and nods the whole time at you.
He loves being on the internet.
I want to kind of let's start with genre because it's on the horror list.
Yes.
And I think that like if we were at a Blockbuster, it would be in the horror. But I agree with Taylor that I do think if we were being real, it's a comedy. And
It's body horror.
and then there's a ton of
horror.
disgusting stuff.
There's stuff in this that definitely, like, I can put up with a lot. You heard me talk about the hand in the vagina earlier.
Yeah.
I looked away from the screen a couple of times with this one.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't need to see that.
Thick stitches up the spinal column. And
This is the movie where I spent like the last 25 minutes basically kind of like staring off to the side of the screen.
Well, did you watch was it a titty come out of the vagina of her face?
Yeah.
It's more like I kind of heard that happen and saw it out of the corner of my eye.
You didn't look full on at the majesty of Grundlemore?
Where she staples the thing onto her face.
Okay, stapling the thing onto her face. That was, I think, there were a lot of pretty good comedies that came out this year. The joke of her showing up to the door with the thing stapled onto her face, the guy opening the door and going, "Where have you been? We've been waiting for you," was like one of the biggest gags of the entire year. The entire last 10 minutes, I had a smile on my face so big when I left the theater, my face hurt. Like, I was like, I can't, no one talk to me and make me smile again because it is painful.
I think that I would probably put Caroline Farjit, as far as season tickets go, a little bit lower than Akasha Stevenson. As far
I would agree with that.
I just like, it's just, if you're a director, then you are the master of tone of the entire thing. And I do think that the substance does sort of go into a lot of places. But something like that is just, that's not of the world you've already created. And yet I'm just going to fucking accept it because the part of the world that you've created is accepting everything. Right?
Yeah.
Yes.
And because we watch these celebrities do almost as horrific things to themselves. So like they don't age gracefully. They instead like just keep torturing their face over and over and over again, stretching it taut and tauter. So like it's so analogous to what we really see these people do.
So early on, I felt like it was clear we were in deft hands, just with like the art design and weird camera choices. That weird, creepy hallway, immediate. Dennis Quaid always being like 2 inches from the camera when he's talking to her.
He's so close.
Or eating. And all of it, you're like, oh, you're a creep, and this is creepy, and it's like the best Quaid has ever been. Probably
like an aggressive,
to who he really is, too.
You would think that at this point in his career, where he's making like a Reagan biopic, he would not understand what this movie is enough to be as good as he is.
I bet Jack explained it to him.
And there is also what William Blake might call like a frightful symmetry in these shots. Like they are sometimes so symmetrical that it really like brings out that hyper reality. And it reminded me a little bit of Severance in that the sort of like the central conceit of the movie is that we don't handle ourselves well. We're not generous with ourselves.
Right.
We're not good to ourselves. Like, to say that we're our own worst enemy is trite, but at the same time, you watch it really play out in this movie, and you're like, yeah, I don't take care of myself. I don't leave myself a clean kitchen for tomorrow. I don't make sure I get enough sleep.
I'm barely hungry, and I have vegetables at home.
Yeah.
$20 at McDonald's, please. You know, like, there's so much of the whole putting stuff on the credit card that you'll have to pay for later in this movie. And also, I think the movie takes an incredible turn when it becomes this, like, the battle of the two women.
Yeah.
That, you know, like, there's so many other things to fight against. Dennis Quaid is fucking there. Kick a shrimp down his throat. But instead, it becomes Demi versus Margaret. And that's just like how
because that's
works.
the enemy. You can hurt yourself. You can't hurt the system. So fuck it. Fuck me.
Right.
You can hurt yourself bad enough to kick yourself all the way across the room and into a wall in a way that makes the entire audience go, oh, shit.
Let's talk about the Demi Moore
aspect.
Some. Thanks, Greg.
I saw you turning down that road, and I was like, I can help.
After the Golden Globe win, she is like almost guaranteed an Oscar nomination. Probably not a win. That's a lot. But an Oscar nomination. Does this make sense to you? Is this more Jamie Lee Curtis, like, oh, we love our, elder stateswomen? Or do you guys think that she killed this?
I thought she did a pretty good job. And I thought that there was, probably this is an awkward way to put it, but like an incredible bravery to being like, yeah, you'll see all of me.
Yes.
Like, I think she's been kind of hiding her face for a while,
Yeah.
And yet you're going to see my entire body. I'm going to play the old version. And on top of that, it's just like the anger. She felt more present in this role than I find her in most movies that she's in.
Yeah. Well, I think if for nothing else, like the scene where she just keeps going back to the mirror and redoing her makeup over and over again.
Oh God.
Give her an award just for that. Like she's so good. Like it really shows, like, because I don't remember the last thing that I saw her in. And I was like, oh yeah, no, she's a fantastic actress. She was in that juice.
That show about Truman Capote and his swans. She was in that.
I mean, she's a star of Landman.
Landman, of
where
course.
she
Oh,
swims.
of course.
Man.
Yeah.
But I honestly think like her legit big thing was Charlie's Angels Full Throttle. So it's been a while.
I think she's the perfect casting as Elizabeth Sparkles has been, where people are like, you were in that thing. Because my wife and I sat there and were like, what? G.I. Jane. I can't think of anything without going to the internet. Anything else.
Decent Proposal.
And then we got to Striptease, and that was it. Those two.
Yeah.
You guys don't watch Ghost?
Ghost.
Ghost?
Do you guys fuck with A Few
You
Good
guys
Men?
fuck with Ghost? You like a Spookies?
Yeah. And then Margaret Qualley is so beautiful in a way that, like,
God.
I was watching the movie, I was like, should I buy Asics shoes? Like, I genuinely, if I see a hot enough person wear something, I do want to wear it. And they were just like, check it out.
There's a bravery here too with her. Demi Moore going full on that one lady who got out of the bathtub in The Shining and just like throwing cracked eggs at the screen. Like, that is the shit that actors will watch that and they'll be like, I can't believe that she did this in front of people and cameras, and then put it on a big screen. But Margaret Qualley to do like, I'm going to play it up as the single most gorgeous person who has ever existed.
Yeah. It's like
that
when
also
you're
takes a lot of chutzpah.
Yeah, it's like when you're casting Helen of Troy, and it's like you've got to cast the person that is believably like beautiful enough to launch 1,000 ships, and if you don't have that juice, it's not going to play. And Margot Qualley, she did it.
And mentally, to your role is just a piece of ass. That has to fuck with you as a professional. Be like, but did I get cast as just a piece of ass because I'm just a bit like? There's had to be some spiraling.
No, it's because you're Annie McDowell's daughter, obviously.
Yeah, she didn't even notice the rain.
It's because you're friends with Hideo Kojima.
Fuck, we gotta be friends with that guy, guys. We have to figure it out.
I've been trying.
This is I think almost 2.5 hour movie. I would say that it is lagging and sagging in spots, if I could say that. It should have maybe gotten an injection in a couple places and had a fresher, newer movie come out. A lot of people point to the last 20 minutes where we're watching an absolute freak show walk around town. Does that fit in with the tone? Is there a part of this movie where you guys were like, right, come on.
That's the important part, though, right? Because that's the last evolution of our starlets, is that they finally become this complete train wreck mess, and we kind of love them in that phase too. But the way we love them is with this ravening love, where we like watch them fall apart and we absorb every minute of that. So I think that it completes the kind of story of what we do with our starlets.
Yeah, I'll say for me, when you started this topic, I thought you were about to say, and it doesn't feel like a minute of it, because I thought this thing motored. I had a blast the whole time. I didn't look at my watch once.
I do have to say, substance, I don't love that. What if we called it the ooze?
Oh.
The ooze.
And what is the secret of that?
Sort of a mystery of it.
Yeah. Ooh.
Some of it spilled into a sewer. How, because Ryan, you're talking about all your list is horror and looking at the history of horror. How do the nods here, were they meaningful? There's clear Shining nods, Carrie nods, music from Vertigo.
I was not talking about the history of horror, but I was talking about our past pop culture. So now we have a Jane Fonda-esque person coming on and trying to figure out how does she make more videotapes. As far as the horror, I was getting, like, going back to what Greg was talking about with the symmetry. Like, those hallways are Kubrickian, right? I do think that that's there for sure.
And they do straight up use, like, music from Vertigo. Like, this director clearly loves horror. But is it just like look, guys, I love horror too? Or is there some, Taylor, you're a horror guy.
I didn't, none of those things made me go, oh yeah, this deepens my understanding of the film. But it was sort of like that's fun. Yeah. But like if you didn't have it, I would have probably enjoyed the movie just as much. But it's like, okay, cool.
I think it helps to bring out a little bit of the fact that, like, part of what we experience when we watch horror is that we're in touch with the horror of reality. And I think that the way in which drawing these illusions reminds us that although the movie doesn't, like, until the very end go into, like, a place where there's monsters in the corner, like, our culture has monsters in the corner. You know, like, we are in the middle of a horror movie. We're in the worst place already. This is the bad place.
And all of this is way more broadcast than the trans stuff that Taylor was talking about with I Saw the TV Glow, but it's just a different movie. It's just a different brightness and aspect, you know?
Yeah, this movie is full blast. We're just shoving everything at you. And I think that's part of why I didn't mind a lot of the sort of references, is it didn't feel like it was a sort of Force Awakens type deal, where it's like, hey, remember this? It was just sort of like we're going to throw this in there, but we're doing other things. We've got our own thing we're doing.
It wasn't letting nostalgia do the heavy lifting.
And I think that's so important in this, not just this genre, but all of them, is giving these people, these directors, in this case, I'm talking about Arkash and Coraline, female directors, the ability to make choices. Like, you guys go wild with your shit, and then hopefully we'll make some money. Universal famously watched this and said, we will never make a dime on this movie. Sold it to Mubi, the streaming service, and they made $50-60 million on this movie. So
also, every time I see
Mubi magic.
Every time I see Mubi, I have to remind myself it's not Tubi, because those are very different vibes.
And words.
Yeah.
One has an M, one has a T.
Yeah, I always remember that one is to be and one is not to be.
All right. We're not going to cut. We're just going to take a break. Have no commercials.
We're just going to sit here and stew in that like a bad fart in a car trip.
Greg, what is your number 2 horror movie of the year?
My number 2 movie is The Substance.
It is?
Yes, I liked it even more than this style.
Oh,
I'm just full of these little funny rejoinders.
Now, all of a sudden, Nosferatu, you can back up because The Substance is now the number 1 horror movie of the year. Mike, what was your number 2?
My number 2 is Speak No Evil.
Oh, shit!
Ooh, damn.
A movie that I feel like nobody's talked about at all.
We were all just so excited for the commercials to go away forever.
Fucking
the
ruled.
Most previewed movie of all time.
A movie that warns you of the danger of vacation, friends. Message learned movie. I do not talk to people on vacation, and I freak out if they try to talk to me.
I hate to interrupt, Mike, but you are never the, what's his name? Scoots McUlrich?
Scoot McNairy?
McNairy.
You are always the other guy on those trips.
Hurtful. Well, I don't remember it then. I guess just like he does, James McAvoy doesn't. They actually Scoots McNairy and Cameron, also from *Halt and Catch Fire*.
Hell yeah!
Hell yeah! My favorite
I should
person,
remember.
Mackenzie Davis.
Mackenzie Davis, thank you. They are a
from
couple,
Blade Runner 2049.
and they have a 12-year-old, and they meet this other couple with a 12-year-old who's a little reticent to chat, the kid, and they get along so much, and the Brits are so charismatic. They're like, we should, when vacation's done, come to your farmhouse and in a really remote location, and like, no, you shouldn't. The tension in this movie just slowly, the radio dial just clicks every 5 minutes, one more notch. There's not like a big blowout until the last 20 minutes, but not in a way like, oh, the tone is wrong. Like, no, they push Mackenzie and Scoot till their very edge, till they have to stop acting like polite, wimpy Americans. It's fucking phenomenal. Everybody's acting their ass off. I loved this movie.
This movie is pretty good. I did not see, but heard a lot about the original. The foreign original.
Haven't
when I say
seen it.
foreign, I mean
I'm sorry. There's a different one.
Yes,
yeah.
this is a remake.
Yeah.
But from a movie from like
makes sense.
2 years ago.
Yeah.
Not that long ago, and that movie was so much more hardcore and had a different ending. I've read about the ending of that movie, very different than this one. But two things about this movie that I love. One, much like Heretic, kind of not the best movie unless you get an incredible lead performance. And James McAvoy, I would like to have him arrested. Like, not
preemptive.
He is fucked up. And two is this movie makes the decision to have Scoots McNairy have no job. When he has no job, he gets laid off of his job and he can't find another one. During that, his wife gets dick pics from people at their daughter's school because she's just texting other people trying to have like online affairs. And the movie, instead of being an arc about Scoot McNairy regaining his manliness, the third act is controlled by Mackenzie Davis handling everything, and he does nothing.
I bet conservative men don't love this movie, but don't know how to articulate why.
Yeah, but I'm sure they'll just say it's woke. That's what's so good about that word, right?
But yeah, can we put James McAvoy in the Dan Stevens camp of I could have been a rom-com leading role heartthrob, and I'm just going to fucking do this shit?
It was during Switch. Was that?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Switch is when he went, oh, you know what? Fuck my career. Fuck the English patient type shit I was doing. I am out, and this is what I'm doing now. And he is so good at being terrifying.
Yes.
And his whole point, and he kind of says it, I feel like I bring this up a lot on podcasts, in real life, why I love, there's a scene in The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo from Papa Skarsgård, and he's all talking to Daniel Craig, and he's like, oh, manners are what killed you, because you just have to be polite, and that's what this whole movie is. That's why I'm not polite to anybody anymore, because movies have taught me you're polite long enough, and then a weird European will kill you for it.
I'm out. That's my new catchphrase. I'm out the second anybody does anything weird. I'm just out. Like,
just
what the fuck are we doing?
So much quicker. So much
Just
quicker.
hit the bricks, dude.
Isn't that the essence of horror movies, though? That you watch somebody and you agonize because you're like, no, don't do this. No, don't do this. No, don't do this.
But again, Mackenzie Davis in here is like, she becomes an audience member of like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
And it's
Earlier
because he's
on than you think she would.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Like in the first 20 minutes. And it's because he's enamored with him because he's the man he can't be.
Yeah.
And that's what's more important than the safety of your family. James McAvoy, I get your emails. You will never babysit. You're a fucking weirdo. My number 2 is The Substance. So that movie is taking a huge hike up. And Taylor, are we ready for your number 1 movie of the year?
I hope you are, because my number 1 movie of the year, and I am standing firm on this, is Cuckoo.
Hunter Schafer's Cuckoo?
Hunter Schafer's Cuckoo. It's a movie where Hunter Schafer has to go to a nice mountain town, and guess who's there? Fucking Dan Stevens.
I thought you were going to say the devil.
Yeah. No. But didn't he, though? Disney?
No, the devil is not there. It's Dan Stevens. And Dan Stevens, there's something weird going on with Hunter Schafer's dad. She's very clearly recently lost her mother. She's going through something. She's a moody teen. And then there's a creepy, fucked up woman who chases her with red eyes at night. And we have to just sort of figure out what's going on with that. Meanwhile, Dan Stevens is playing a flute and talking about birds a whole lot. Guys, I don't know anyone else who loves this movie as much as I do. It was my second favorite movie, not horror movie, second favorite of the year, and maybe first. I had such a fucking blast with this thing.
Are you Cocoa Puffs for Cuckoo?
I am Cocoa Puffs for Cuckoo, and I'll say it, and I'll stand on this. Cuckoo has what Longlegs wants. It is everything like Longlegs wanted to be. It's got the same, like, it's not doing the same thing, but it's got the type of vibes that Longlegs wants to go for. But then is just doing like cool creative shit like that makes you like what's going on? And then it explains it pretty clearly in a way that is like not overbearing to me. And it's just like, hey, here's what's going on. And now we're going to watch that play out. And it's just a fun time. And Hunter Schafer is wearing like one of those old timey big bandages on her head.
To be honest,
the movie.
Part of the reason I did not watch this movie, and I know that this is going to make me lose some credibility, and you know how I love my street cred, but part of the reason I didn't watch this movie is because on the poster, Hunter Schafer is wearing a cartoon head bandage.
Yes.
As if she just got whacked in the head with a mallet.
It looks like, and I know I've said this before, it looks like she's in a Hideo Kojima game. It's so, and she's walking around with like a Walkman for half the movie.
Hell
it's
yeah.
straight up like there's so much like weird anachronistic stuff, and she's just in like a Swiss mountain chalet, riding her little bike around. It's such like, it's such a good time. The vibes are off the chart. I had a blast with this thing. Dan Stevens is being a freaky little guy.
Would you buy more stock in Hunter Schafer than any other Euphoria actor?
Oh, well, I don't know because I mean Zendaya's sort of already like I think I would buy stock in Hunter Schafer because I don't know how much more Zendaya can go up. But yes, absolutely.
The price is low.
She's so good. Yeah, the price is low, and she's really electric on the screen. Like I really feel like it's hard to look away from her anytime she's acting. Like she sort of has like that sort of energy where I'm like, I just want to watch you like move around and do stuff in the frame.
Well, because of how this game works, Cuckoo is now in the top 5 horror movies of the year.
That makes sense if it's his number one.
Greg, what is your number one horror movie of the year?
My number one horror movie was I saw the TV Glow. I was blown away by this, but we already talked about it.
That's good. It does move up. It is now number 2 below The Substance.
Can I say one thing I want to say is between The Substance and I saw the TV Glow, I feel like we're going to see our horror movies again in a couple of weeks. I think these movies are going to be in just the regular ass movie list.
Stick it to those hoity-toity just watch regular movie people.
I do think a lot of them will be, it's an honor just to be nominated, but I think that's such a big deal too. You know, like it's such a big deal for Mubi. Like I can't watch The Substance unless I subscribe to Mubi, which is $4.99 a month. And do you guys know about Mubi?
Movie?
They have Mubi. They have 30 movies, and every day they add a new one and drop the oldest one.
Wow.
And so that's all you can watch is their 30 hand-selected movies instead of all the fucking bullshit.
But one of them is Substance right now.
I think that one's probably going to stay on.
And you can see it for... Oh. So they don't all cycle out.
I mean, I think they probably changed their protocol.
It's not a strict 30 days for each movie. It's like whatever's the least performing one gets dropped.
Oh, that would be awesome if they turned it into
like every day.
It's like movie Hunger Games. So when you subscribe to this, you're getting the greatest hits of movies. There's 30 of them, but you know they're going to be the best ones.
All you've done, Taylor, is made me realize I want brackets back. I want them back right now. Mike, what is your number one horror movie of the year?
The Substance.
All right.
Italian version.
I watched the dub.
It's marinara.
Okay, so that puts The Substance at number 1.
Yeah.
For sure. And I am not going to be able to affect the list that much, but I will do my best because my number 1 movie of the year is obviously The First Omen. I could not believe how scary but incredibly made this movie was. You guys didn't get a chance to talk about your movies when you just like they'd already been talked about.
I launched into it and then
So you don't get to either.
Yeah. The First Omen's really good, though. You guys gotta check it out.
The short Omen, or the first Omen rather, was on a list of movies that I had that I could watch before this podcast, and I was just like, you had said to me it's one of the scarier movies that you had seen, and I was like, no, thank you, I'm not doing this.
I mean, the substance is so much that I've never seen on screen as far as grossness goes, but it's not scary. It's like needles into needle holes is not fun. But yeah, the First Omen is absolutely nuts. Gentlemen, we have our top 5.
Let's do it.
Your number 5 horror movie of the year is Late Night with the Devil. Your number 4 is Nosferatu. Your number 3 is The First Omen. Your number 2 is I Saw the TV Glow. And your number 1 horror movie of the year is The Substance. Does any of that surprise anybody?
No, that all tracks.
Yeah, that sounds correct to me.
Yeah, that checks out for me.
I think maybe if we do this again next year, we should have negative votes. So, like, maybe Taylor could have taken I Saw the TV Glow down a peg.
I like that idea. I want to be clear. I don't think I would have used that on I Saw the TV Glow.
Yeah, because I did. A bigot.
Yeah, I want to be clear. I loved so much If I Saw the TV Glow that the things I didn't love felt like personal betrayals.
Did you love how I Saw the TV Glow had the moon guy from obviously the George Millay silent movie, but the whole time you're like, it kind of looks like the one though from Tonight, and then all of a sudden they go to a cover of Tonight.
Yes, I did. Yes, I did, Greg.
That made me so excited.
There were 2 2024 horror movies that referenced the moon guy. That's crazy, because a terrible fucking movie that should have been up my ass used it, Lisa Frankenstein.
Oh, God, yeah. Lisa Frankenstein would have been my one for negative vote.
Yep.
Even though nobody picked it, I still think it deserves negative points.
I was like, I'm bringing it up no matter what, because I love the let's make these old stories comedies. I love Catherine Newton, and this was such a waste of time.
Is this Diablo Cody?
Oh, it might have been.
Yeah, it is, I think.
Yeah, it is.
I think this is like kind of the end of that.
Yeah, well, I mean, like, what a roller coaster ride for a screenwriter. You know, it's usually actors or maybe directors.
Gotta agree with you there, Home Skillet.
Yeah. I can't believe no one picked Winnie the Pooh 2, Blood and Honey.
Well, I picked Steamboat Willie 3.
I'm going to give that one negative votes. You shouldn't be able to do that. I don't care about copyright. There's a little thing called decency.
Congratulations. Congratulations to The Substance. I do want to take some time for honorable mentions, but right out the bat, I do want to throw out Max XXXine. Are you guys shocked that this movie did not make the list?
Only
because it sucked. Yeah, that was one of those movies where I in the first 30 minutes I was like, I have a few issues with this, but I'm having a good time. And then by the end of it, I was like, those issues I had at the beginning seem so small and insignificant in comparison. I've never seen anyone fuck up a movie so quickly.
Yeah, it makes me want to go rewatch X to see if I was a fucking idiot, because I loved X. And
we still call it Twitter here, Mike.
Nope, I never will. And then for me, the step down to Pearl and then to this, I'm like, oh, maybe X wasn't good.
Oh, no. This movie was a little bit of a mess. I thought it had a lot of amazing elements, but it was not X or Pearl. No. And those movies stand alone so well. Like, they connect, but they're such different genres. And then Maxime was, I don't know what happened there.
It felt like someone forgot they were making a movie, and then a deadline.
Oh, I have to turn it in tomorrow. Yes.
I was a little surprised not to see A Quiet Place Day One get any votes, just because I felt like that first movie was such a big event and everybody enjoyed it, and then the second one came and went without much of fanfare.
I've heard Day One was. I've heard it described how you guys described First Omen, where somebody wanted to make their horror movie, and then I guess I'll put it in the Quiet Place universe because this is the only way I get to tell this. And that's the thing that made me go, oh, maybe I want to watch that then.
It is legit good. I would say that as a quiet little movie, because it has to be, about these two people, and it's Lupita Nyong'o, who is bankable, but also the Human Torch, who I don't think I've seen in anything. Maybe the episode of Stranger Things. I didn't know if he was good or not, and he's really, really good in this as well. This movie is actually really good.
Yeah, my wife loved A Quiet Place and saw A Quiet Place day one, and she did not have like any of that. There's like, she's like, it's not as good as the first one necessarily, but she was really glad she saw it, and she said it was scary as well.
Did you guys watch Trap?
No.
I did, and it's definitely not a horror movie.
It's really like, it's so borderline. I had such a good time with that movie though. M. Night Shyamalan, you're back, man.
If you like The Thing, where
8 years in a row
is better the dumber it gets, Trap is definitely the movie for you.
I think I said about it, M. Night Shyamalan has become perfect at making 5-star, 3-star movies, and that's exactly what Trap is. It's like 4 different movies in a trench coat.
Yes.
And it has like a bunch of like weird, like it has ads for his other movies, like the things he's producing in the background of it.
I will say
it's Josh Hartnett good.
It's one of those movies. It's probably the movie of the year that has the most. It's the Oppenheimer, I guess, of this year of like, or any Christopher Nolan movie of like, you don't like this, you don't fucking get it, man. You don't even understand what Trap is all about. It's like, I'd never intended to watch it.
Yeah.
I'm not going to watch it based on your stupid ass.
I will say, tonally, it sets itself up as a very realistic movie, and I think that's why, as it continues on to the end of the movie, it starts getting more and more absurd, not because monsters show up, but just because it's like, this really strains credulity. And I think that the tension working against the fact that it has like kind of a down-home regular beginning, you know, it kind of just loses the plot, I think.
The mere fact that like this arena sellout artist is performing at 11 a.m. on a Tuesday.
Yes,
is one of the funniest choices. It's so like Josh Hartnett's great, having a good time.
He's marrying the Bears' cousin's ex-wife, so I'm not a fan.
My brain shut down when you said that. I hard reset.
Is that Allison Williams?
No, it's
What the fuck are any of you talking about? How are you trying to parse any of what he just
the
fucking
Bear's
said?
cousin from
cousin
the Bear.
Richie from the Bear. His ex-wife.
his ex-wife is from Community.
Oh yeah, I know who you're
Gillian
talking about.
Jacobs?
There, yeah,
What's happening?
No, that's the actress's name, Taylor. We're looking for the character's name.
Britta.
Gilly? Britta. There it is. I knew it was some water filter system. The one last movie I want to talk about is it got no play here. I don't know if it was worth making. Was Smile 2. Do we need another Smile?
I hated Smile so much that I spit upon Smile 2 and did not watch.
I felt like Smile 2. It wasn't fair for me to put that anywhere on this list, and I wouldn't have, because I saw like a slightly early advanced screening where it was like wasn't quite finished yet. And it was one of those things where like I got to give feedback like at the very end, and they were real concerned about how the ending played, as they should have been. And it seems like, from what I have learned, they didn't take a lot of the feedback that was given about that.
That
and
piss
it
you
ends
off?
poorly. What?
Were you mad?
No, because my feedback was mostly you should redo the third act of this movie, which seemed like a non-starter for them. It seemed like it was probably a little bit further along than was capable of making that change. But some of the scares in it are really good. Like, it has some of the best scares. I just think it kind of falls apart a little bit.
It's so hard when you got to end them.
I know.
It's like, they're like setting it up and getting through the middle. It's like, okay. And then it's like, we got to bring this thing home now? Ugh.
Do what songs do. Fade out. Just fade out in the middle of the scene credits. And you're like,
okay,
what?
Speaking of songs, though, I have to shout out. Guys, if you like music, go see Smile 2, because if you're not aware, the premise is she is a world-famous pop star who is being smile haunted. And they and they do a bunch of like songs like for her in the movie, and they could have just phoned it in. They're made up songs for a movie. They don't have to be good. All of the songs are good, and I would go to her concert. It's crazy the production value that they put on these fucking songs. And also it's nice because every time they start doing a song, I'm like, oh cool, I'm safe from scares right now. I'm not going to get scared in the middle of this song. It's fine. Like, I have at least a minute where I'm not going to get spooked.
Who is a better pop artist? The girl from Smile 2 or M. Night Shyamalan's daughter?
Lady Raven?
Lady Raven.
Lady Raven? I think we all know the answer to that, but I'm going to withhold out of respect for Lady Raven.
Man, that You ever like if you said, "Hey, there's someone in this movie is related to somebody who made this movie." If you like showed it to someone, as soon as she's on screen, they'd be like, "This one, it's this one. This one's related to somebody who made the movie."
Here's the thing, though, is I'm so excited about M. Night Shyamalan at this point. I'm like, yeah, fuck it. Let him put his kid in the movie. Who cares? Let him keep cranking out one of these a year.
He's in the movie too.
Well,
yeah,
right?
he
Like he
always
says
is.
like one line. Yeah,
He's hanging
the
out.
Hitchcock of our generation.
I see.
Yeah. Guys, please, everyone listening, Late Night with the Devil, The First Omen, I Saw the TV Glow, and The Substance are available at home. I think Nosferatu, the 5th of our top 5, you do have to go see in theaters, but all 5 of them, great movies. I expect some, if not most, to be talked about in our Movie of the Year episode. So that, to me, is a good year for horror. For Taylor, for Mike, for Greg, my name is Ryan. Thank you so much for listening. Goodbye.